Hi, I'm Karen and I've been a foster carer with Care Visions for 2 years now. So after I made the decision to go forward with Care Visions, I was then invited to go along to the Skills to Foster, which is a 3-day training programme which goes into more detail in terms of what fostering looks like, what your journey, etc. And then we go into what you call Form F, which is the big assessment process, and at that point I was appointed Mark as my supervising social worker, and from then on it was it's quite a long process, a 6-month process, going through everything from the beginning, from your childhood right the way through, to make sure we get all the information out and understand the reasons why you want to go into fostering. And that's when I started to build a working relationship with Mark, who would come out and visit me, and we would do different parts of the assessment, and I would do some things and send it on to him. And that's where we first started working together, Mark.
Yeah, so kind of my role was to go out, as I said, and kind of give Karen a bit more information about the sort of things we'd be doing. It's a very thorough, and some people might feel an intrusive process, but there's a reason for that, is that we've got to try and kind of assess the kind of resilience and experiences that you've had in terms of looking after the children that come into care who have came from a background of likely trauma, a lot of the time neglect, and we need to make sure that you're going to be able to kind of, very importantly, listen to them and support them to meet their needs and achieve best outcomes. And I think that what was really important about the relationship that me and Karen have, and what I hope to have with all my carers, is that it's built on kind of a lot of respect and honesty and trustworthiness, and you're sharing everything about yourself. But I like to think that throughout the process it was based on the exchange model, that myself and Karen, Karen learned a lot about me. I was very respectful of Karen, sharing a lot, so we could bounce off each other, and it's quite a it's a heavy process, but it can be quite a fun process and an emotional process in terms of some of the stuff we talk about. So that kind of went on. Also part of the kind of process is kind of speaking to people who know Karen, and getting their kind of insight on the kind of person she is. Just kind of reference checks, which was great as well. That's independent. Karen wasn't part of that. And also as well, what I'd done throughout the process was linked Karen in with some of our kind of current foster carers, which she was able to contact independently, ask all the questions she maybe didn't want to ask me, and that was fine. That's what it's all about. I didn't necessarily contact my carers to ask what Karen had asked. That was her kind of thing to do. And what that had done is it built up a peer relationship from early on for Karen, and it meant that when she came through the process, she was already linked in internally with some of our carers, but she's continued some of those relationships, which is great, and that's really helpful. I'll often do myself out of job, but I do think what you have to be willing to do is build that peer relationship. There's nothing more important than it, and it's really helpful in terms of when you go into the job, if you are needing that extra emotional support, or somebody who is in your shoes, which I am not. I'm not a foster carer, so I recognise that, and again, that's the kind of respect I like to show and display, that I'm not living as a foster carer, but hopefully I can use my experience to support you guys. So
I think the peer support is a big one, and getting introduced to some of Mark's carers earlier on was really good, because you're hearing it, like Mark said, you're hearing it from their experience, and I know that if going forward that ever there was any issues, that I could phone either Mark or phone the foster carers straight away. The whole process for me was really, I found it quite fun, quite informative, and Mark said it is really intrusive, but it was in a good way, because you go back to your childhood, and you go back to everything that's happened in your experience and what you can bring to being a foster carer. And I think the more you go into it very, very unknown, and it evolves, I think, as you go through, and you suddenly realise, this is what I want to do. And for me, that was, at that point, I thought, when I started the Form F, after doing the Skills to Foster, then doing the Form F, it was just, this is for me, this is what I want to do.
I mean, I think you can see Karen's investment very early on in the kind of process, and you do need to invest in it and you need to commit to it because it's a very thorough, process. And if you're not willing to kind of, put your all into it, it's maybe not the time for you at this moment in time.